Welcome to Attention Retention with Jackie McManus, your source for the latest trends in transportation recruitment and retention.
Welcome everyone to Attention Retention. I'm Jackie McManus, CEO and founder of KJ Media. We are a recruitment advertising agency specializing in attracting drivers, optimizing hiring processes, and helping fleets scale smarter and faster. On this show, we explore the world of recruitment, retention, and recognitions by interviewing industry leaders and experts. We dive deep into strategies, challenges, and success stories that are shaping workforce management in the trucking industry. This week, I am thrilled to be joined by Joshua Grimes, recruiting director at Dillon Transportation. Josh, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being on.
Yes, Josh, so when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, I think a couple months ago at this point, one thing that you said to me really stuck out, and it was about honesty and transparency are the non-negotiables when it comes to recruiting drivers. And that point stands out because it addresses one of the biggest pain points in the industry, which is trust. But before we dive in, for those of our audience that aren't familiar with Dillon, if you could share a little bit more about Dillon Transportation and what you guys do over there.
Yeah. So we are they call small to mid-sized trucking company. We've got 105 trucks in our fleet total. So we run drive-in freight. We don't do any kind of hazmat. We don't do any kind of touch freight. We do what we like to call the easiest truck driving that you can do. Get in there and drive the truck. We're based out of Ashland City, Tennessee. That's right outside of Nashville. And then we also have a second terminal in Kingman, Arizona. So we run freight coast to coast. We've got solo drivers at each location that run regional OTR. Family owned and operated, and have been strong at that for going on 30 years now.
30 years?
Yep.
Is that right? Wow. That's fantastic. And being right outside of Nashville, that's a fun time. Nashville's always a great city to go visit. Love it when there's a conference there for sure. But you did start your career in trucking, and I'm really excited to have you on because, like we were talking about just pre the podcast, many of us, once we've been bitten by the bug, which you have, and we've been in the industry for decades. I mean, for me, I'm coming on almost 2 decades, which is hard to believe. And but I'd love for you to share a little bit about your journey and how you found your way into the trucking industry.
Yeah, it's I have probably one of the crazy verse background of a lot of people you'll meet in the trucking industry. And a lot of the people I've met throughout the industry are kind of like, how did you do all this stuff, man? And to me, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It was just one stepping stone to another. I was a touring musician for many years, and
Yeah.
that, along with that, you don't make a lot of money, so you have to work. And my choice of job at the time was the service industry. So I was a restaurant warrior, server, bartender for many years. And then when the life on the road as a musician was not panning out what I had hoped it to be, the money was not what we had dreamed it would become. And what I knew was the service industry. So I worked my way up into service management. I worked through restaurant management for many years, and it was a good time. It's definitely something of the past. I don't know if I'd want to relive it now.
Right. Right.
It's a different lifestyle. But fast forward, we'd say, geez, at least a decade in the service industry. More than
Is that right?
yeah, at least a decade. Life goes on. You meet your spouse, your partners, and
Mm-hmm.
I ended up quitting work for a little while my fiance at the time, she opened a business, and I helped her get that together and use the knowledge I had of, um, you know, running an office and, paying invoices and everything that she needed help with to get her business up and afloat. I decided that, when it was time to go back to work, that the restaurant world was just not for me anymore.
Sure.
It's a great job for some people, and you can make a lot of money in that industry, but it was time to change. So I did some soul searching and thought for a good while. I was like, I've always been really good at selling, even in the
Mhm.
service industry.
Mhm.
We've got that special. I'm going to win the prize for selling that special the most that evening. So I did a little research on where I could start and get my feet wet, and
Mhm.
found myself in the wireless industry.
Oh,
So
really? Okay.
yeah, yeah. So sold phones for, excuse me, for Verizon wireless retailer for about 6 years, and and found that the money was actually incredible in that area for a long time, and it was a great stepping stone into something different
Mhm.
that allowed me to experience some things that I hadn't experienced in the service industry world, and learning how to make rapport with people and um, do it with integrity and honesty. And that's something I try to carry along with me. So 6 years into that, time for a change.
Sure.
I'm looking at other sales jobs, and I end up in some medical sales, and a really cool company I was working for that developed mobile clinics, so doctor's
Mm.
offices on wheels. And it was a cool, when I say stepping stone, it was a brief one. I spent about a year in that industry, but due to the effects from the COVID-19 pandemic, uh,
Mhm.
the the manufacturing facility of this company was backlined, 2 years on what they were building, and because of that, um, it was causing internal issues within the company.
Sure.
So it became again where maybe this is not gonna work for now. Um, so that saying, it helps to know someone, is
It
kinda how
always
I got
does. Yeah.
your trucking industry, and my wife's business actually came back into play with this, and one of her instructors works for Dillon Transportation, and we were out one night at dinner, and she was like, "So you're not really happy where you're at?" And I said, "Well, I said it's not that I'm not happy, but it's an uncertain future, and at this point, it's I've got to take care of me and the family."
Mhm.
She said, "Well, we need a recruiter." She
Mm.
said, "We haven't had a recruiter in a couple of years. We're sharing the role in between different officers within the company, and it's getting to be where we need it to happen faster than we're able to do it on top of our jobs that we're already assigned." So here we go again. Okay, well, let's look into this. Well, recruiting and sales go hand in hand.
I was just
Um,
gonna say, yep.
yeah, and so that right there, I was like, well, that can work. Essentially, I'm selling a company. I'm just not doing it for a profit.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not doing it for a commission per se.
Mhm.
So I said, okay, well, let me do some research. And she talked to the team, and then we got on the phone and talked a good bit. And I told him, I said, I don't know anything about the trucking industry. I don't know left from right about it. I said, but I learned, on a very fast pace. And I believe I can come in and look at maybe what's good that's working, and maybe implement some things to change
Mhm.
what's not working, um, to get the truck seated, get them out on the road, and to maximize the profitability of the company. So let's give it a shot. Um, and so I came in, and a little tough at first, just trying to learn the ins and outs. And
Sure.
when you're recruiting, you're asked about everything about the job. You're asked about, the lanes, the
Mhm.
miles, the pay, what the truck's equipped with, how the trucks are governed. I mean, just everything that you can think of. The recruiter's got to know those answers.
Mhm.
And as I was learning that part of the job, this is where the honesty part really kicked in. It said, I can't imagine how many people work in this industry, and you've got a team of recruiters, and they are just not as versed in what the job entitles, or what exactly the company can offer, or the policies and procedures, and so on and so forth. And I thought to myself, if I really do some time and do the homework to um, get up to date with this knowledge, and I need to do it quick because I need a truck seated. Otherwise, they're going to go, "Hey, this wasn't a good pick for us at Dillon. We need to find a better recruiter." So I really started digging in, talking to the dispatchers, talking to the different directors, operations, safety, talking to maintenance, learning every area that I need to know information on to get these questions answered.
Mhm.
I started finding it easier and easier to talk to the drivers that were applying. Um, I found ways to help myself, and when I got asked a question I didn't know an answer, hey, great question, and let me find you a good answer because I don't want to just tell you something. But that falls back to, how many recruiters just give an answer to get to the next question. You know, it,
Yeah.
to me, I'm like that's not professional, number one, but you're misleading someone. You're setting an expectation that's false. Um, so I would a lot of times would take these questions that I had answered, and I would have me a notepad and I'd write them down and
Yeah.
implement it to what I already knew and what I had already learned. And a lot of times, and still even today, doing this, 2.5 going on 3 years, I get up out of bed and
Mhm.
way to work. The first thing I'm like, what am I going to learn today? There's something I'm going to learn.
Mm.
It can be the most minute
I
thing,
love that.
nothing to do with the job, but I'm going to learn something today. I've got to expand my mind a little bit. Um, and that really helped in that area. So, uh,
Mhm.
moving forward, I've had good success with that, and I implemented that to how I talk to the drivers, and getting them on board is taking the knowledge that I learned and where it's got me, and help pass that to them, and um, hopefully get them, brought them a success.
And with your background, m restaurant management and even in wireless phones, it's high pressure. It's high, it's very much a 24/7 high pressure role. And so, and I often say I actually started my career first in sales and then I went to recruiting. And there were so many transferable skill sets that actually I think help me recruit and connect with drivers
Absolutely,
differently
absolutely.
than not having the sales experience. And often it's recruiting is sales. We come across trucking companies that we worked with and they'll put, the mother-in-law in the seat of the recruiter, right? I use mother-in-law just as a joke, but basically saying, "Hey, you're the recruiter now," without any formal training or interpersonal skills whatsoever. And I think if that the recruiter is the first person a driver is going to speak to at your company, you want to make sure that they can either understand the full position, and if they and explain that, but also if they don't know the answer, it's okay, to your point earlier, to say, "I'll get right back to you." That sometimes is just a perfectly good answer. So, recruiting and sales both require building relationships, listening closely, solving problems, following through. And so I do often say that those skill sets are really transferable. It's
Mm.
just a different product that you are serving in a way.
Absolutely, Jackie. You really said it best. First impressions last.
I do.
Typically, the first person that who's applying is talking to is the recruiter. There are case by case when that's not the
Absolutely.
that's not the
Yep.
case, but the first impression really does last. And also when it comes to taking the prior knowledge and using the skills, I mean, you would not think that working as a bartender or a server or a restaurant manager would apply in the trucking industry. But take a time out and go, well, when you're in that industry, you're walking up to strangers and talking to people you don't know every day. And you have to
Mhm.
walk up and talk to them like your best friends. Uh,
Mhm.
when I used to train people, I'd say, when you go to your tables and talk to them, act like they're your friend you haven't seen in 10 years. They're gonna
Absolutely.
be welcoming to you, and they're gonna trust you to take care of them, and, that bled into sales, when
Mhm.
a customer would come into the door, "Hey, good to see you. It's been a while. Well, I've never met you before. I know it's been a lifetime, hasn't it?"
Mm.
But, and then fast forward it into the recruiting gig, it's the same here, when you get on the phone, it's tough because you do get drivers in the industry that are
Yeah.
disgruntled and they're frustrated because they've been lied to or they've been working
Mhm.
for whoever, out there that has, lied to them or just ran them through the meat grinder, and they're looking for something fresh, but they don't have any trust in it anymore. And they've done it
Right.
for so long that they've lost trust in it. It's hard for them to find that. And it's objections that in recruiting, we have to overcome. But I like these objections because I want to prove them wrong. I want
Yeah.
to let them know that, hey, I get it that the last 5 recruiters you talked to were not honest with you. And you can probably hear this out of my mouth, and it doesn't mean anything until you see it. But I'd be more than happy to connect you with one of our drivers. I'd be more than happy to let you talk to someone else. So you're not just hearing it from me, and you hear the
Mhm.
consistency in what I tell you. And,
Mhm.
and those things help. When you're consistent with these guys and they hear the same thing over and over. When they hear an orientation what I told them over the phone, or when they dispatch out on their first trip, and it's everything that Josh and my dispatchers explained to me. It makes them feel a
Mhm.
sigh of relief, and it makes them want to, not stay parked, but stay in that seat, of
Yeah.
transportation or whatever company it would be at that time.
Something you said earlier about, the transition into this industry being i there were some fun surprises, some learning lessons, of course. What would you say looking back at your early days, what surprised you most about the industry?
Well, I'll tell you what surprised me the most, and this was not knowing about trucking, is how big of an impact that our drivers in this country and our trucking
It
companies
is.
have on everybody. I
It
mean,
is.
anything you have in your house,
Mhm.
anything that I mean, everywhere, it was delivered by a
Everywhere.
truck at some point.
Mhm.
And this
Mhm.
people forget that, or they just don't realize it. You get the stamina of, you got the big rigs on the road taking over, and well, let them, because you never know what's in that trailer
Oh,
because you might need it. It could be life saving equipment. Who knows what it is, but it's something of importance. And I think that was the biggest surprise to me about the trucking industry. There was a lot of it that, maybe I didn't feel a surprise on because I did my research, but the unity that truck drivers have,
yeah.
and that really, even trucking companies have, was a huge surprise, and it was a good surprise. And it was a nice eye opener, and it gave me something else to appreciate about where we are and where we live, and what makes our country so great, and
Yeah.
how it's made so great. And these drivers are a huge portion of that. They're very underappreciated, by all means.
I always say, 2 comments. I love that you absolutely that you said that because it's true. It is something that goes overlooked. We're not taught this in school. If you don't have family in the industry, it's just information you don't have. And when I joined the industry in 2008 during the financial crisis, I was in an interview with the CEO of a trucking company, and he said, "See what you're sitting on?" And go, "Yes, a chair." "See your water bottle?" I go, "Yes." He's like, "Where'd it come from?" I was like, "Target." He's like, "A truck." And then I learned the economics. 78% of what we eat, drink, wear, everything comes on a truck. And so that really spoke to me. And I was like, so it's essential, okay? And then as I they dived into the industry deeper and deeper and deeper, and it was dispatching, recruiting, and sales, and the unity, what you said, the people in the industry, it is a very prideful group, as it should be. But often, I had a lot of friends and family when I was in the industry, and then when I started my business in the industry saying, "Trucking? Why? It's not glamorous. It's not, cool." I think it is. 2020 happens, Josh, and I'll never forget, I started getting, within a week, phone calls, text messages from family members and all my distant cousins and, some friends saying, "Holy smokes, we just watched a segment." It was on NBC Lester Holt about trucking. At this point in time, people weren't getting their toilet paper because we didn't have enough drivers, right? And so the whole chain was exposed. And I say exposed in a good way. There was public branding and PR around the industry. And I was like, that's exactly why I'm in this industry is because everything we eat, drink, we wear, it comes on a truck and it's not going anywhere. So going through 2008, obviously financial crisis, and 2020, there were some verticals in the industry, which of course they fell, but most of our clients, they kept trucking along, right? We have one of our clients is one of the first to haul the COVID vaccine, the first initial vaccine. And so there's a sense of the pride in the industry. And so I love that you said that because I think that is the most critical piece. And once you understand that, I think that's when you get bit by the bug because you're like, my job is important, right? The drivers are important. And yeah, that's really critical. So looking at recruiting, really kind of let's peel it back. It's a competitive market. It's been competitive over the last couple of years that you've been in the industry. It's been competitive since I've been in the industry. But it's also about creating that real connection between a trucking company and a driver. But start with what's working. What strategies have you found to be more effective when you're attracting and recruiting drivers to Dillon?
Well, really tracking back to the starting with the first impression, uh,
Yeah.
creating a reasonable expectation that's going to be met when they show up. You don't want to tell the driver that when you get here, you're going to get a bushel of apples and then you get a basket of oranges. It just doesn't pan out well. That's with anyone in any life scenario. If we
Mhm,
expect something and then get less or the opposite of what we're expected, then typically we're going to turn around and walk away from it. Or if we deal with it, we're not happy about it.
mhm.
So it's important to start off with the conversations and being transparent in these conversations. To one, rule out the drivers that maybe it's not a good fit for. Maybe the type of trucking they like or the type of company they want to work for isn't what we can offer, or or has maybe a different standard per se. But these conversations, when they're had in the first place, you can cancel out a lot. When you go, hey, our driving is prominent nighttime driving. Well, most drivers are like, great, I'd rather drive at night. But here and
Mhm.
there, you get one that goes, I can't do night driving. Hey,
Right.
and that's when you go, hey, I appreciate you reaching out and I wish you the best of luck, but we're not going to be a good fit for you because 90% of the driving you do for us is going to be at nighttime. Um, it's funny because we do a portion during our orientation where our dispatchers come in and they meet and talk to the drivers for a little bit. And,
Which is great.
you know,
Yeah,
going back to the consistency, um,
yeah.
they used to come in and it was funny because they go, can you drive at night? And then they go, yeah, Josh talked to me about that, and then it's
Mhm.
turned into now they come in, well, Josh already told you that you have to drive at night, and they're like, oh yeah, oh yeah. So they
This
kind of laugh
is
about it. But even our dispatchers know when they're coming in that I've already set what their expectation is of the drivers. Um, and it really helps to keep the drivers for a long, it gets it. That's where retention really comes into play.
Mhm.
It's from that number one moment, and it's not just the recruiter at all. This
Mm-mm.
is a whole, well oiled working machine, but that is the number one thing with retention. It absolutely starts with the recruiter and what message the recruiter is delivering to the driver about the company. And as long as that expectation is set and met when they show up, typically you're going to keep that driver around. It's not always going to happen that way. You've been in the industry long enough to know it doesn't work that way every time.
Yeah.
But if you can make it happen the majority of the time, and get those, the retaining percentages up higher, it looks better on the company. And it looks better when someone who is wanting a company to stay with or retire with to go, oh man, like you've got drivers that have been here 20 years. That says a lot.
Right.
You know,
Oh, it's social proof, right? If we were selling cell phones, for example, right, we would wanna see other folks that look, act, dress like us, have a good experience,
well,
or their bill was cut, right? For whatever reason that social proof is, and so to have that in the best referral and as an advertising agency, I always say the number one source should always be driver referrals, no matter what. That's what you want, because these are drivers that have maybe been with you for years, and drivers want to hear from other drivers. And back to your point, setting that expectation, that first impressions in the beginning, it's perfectly okay to say this might not be the best fit for you. That driver probably has friends and will say, you know what? Dylan would be a great fit for you. Why don't you go to Platinum? I just talked to my boy Josh over there. Let him
And
know
I've
I called,
literally
right?
had that happen, like, just recently had that happen, so, and that's another great point. I mean, it does, it's like when you have an experience somewhere and you wanna tell people about it. Well, that's typically how that goes. "Hey, I talked to this guy, this company's not for me, but it'd be right up your alley," and we do, and I wish it happened more than it did, but the fact that it does happen is, I'm good with it.
Mhm. It makes the world of a difference. I'd love to know, what are there any daily habits or tools you swear by that help you stay on top of everything? Because you do manage quite a bit, and most small to medium-sized trucking companies, mid-sized carriers do as well.
Yeah, right.
Typically, one person in recruiting, maybe they have a processor, but, are there any tools or habits that have helped you, accelerate your day-to-day with managing so many different conversations in a given day?
Well, I don't even know if you would call it a tool, but what we love to call action items. Uh,
Mhm.
there's a habit that I'm a habit forming employee. So once I really got the ins and outs of this job, and everything that my job required, I wear a good few hats in the
Mhm.
position because here we don't have other recruiters. I'm it. I hire for Tennessee and Arizona. Not only am I hiring, I'm doing the processing, the background checks, MBRs, making sure they're getting their drug screens done, and then putting their, DQ files together. There's a lot. I could just go on and on of the list of things that I have
Sure.
to do. So it can be overwhelming. If I showed you the list, you'd probably be like, "How do you do all this?" But I don't let it overwhelm me because, just like anyone, I'm going to take the big items to the small items, and I'll maybe have a list, and then we look
Yeah.
at what's important, what can wait, and what needs to get done. And at the end of every day, I make me a list, and it's old school. I write it down on a notebook
I love that.
and and it's my action items for when I
I'll show you my
or
notepad right here. Yep.
I s
Good old fashioned yellow pad.
yeah, funny story on that. So when I first really got into doing this job and, one of the daughters of the owner of Dillon Transportation who had worked my job,
Mhm.
was helping me out with the training, and we were doing a lot of Zoom meetings, and, she started going through 10th Street, and 10th Street is such a great tool, and, I'm really glad that I've been able to dig into 10th Street and learn all the, extras that it has, to make the job easier for the recruiters.
Mhm.
But I hadn't done that yet, and, I hadn't had a ton of 10th Street training, and she was going through and she was like, "I just don't see any notes on these drivers." And
Mm.
I had a notebook and a composition notebook. Um, what
Yeah.
are these guys? See?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
I remember
obviously,
those.
I'm still the a pen and paper guy. That I'm dating myself a little bit with that, but I said, well, I said,
I guess we're both dating, ourselves then at this point.
yeah, 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 yeah. But I told her, I said, "I'm so sorry." I said, "Yeah, I'm sure it helped for you to see that, and if I had typed the notes into
Right.
10th Street, other than just wrote them down." So I had to get myself away from when I had, like, notes for each driver I was talking to, and I was just writing it down on paper, which takes way longer to do than
Oh,
just,
it does, I know.
using a keyboard, and I know how to type fast.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Why am I making this harder on myself?" But start to utilize those kind of things to move forward and make the job easier for myself. But yes, action items. I was getting off something there. Action items is really the biggest keyword of tools that I can use. I mean, there's so much that goes into everything I do. I
Right.
don't know if I could put one thing aside other than keeping myself organized and knowing either when I walk out the door or before I walk out the door that okay, I accomplished everything I could. I utilized my time. I was valuable with my time, and I come in tomorrow and I know what I've got to get done first. And it really doesn't hang over my head.
Yeah, it makes a difference. It does. like in a good old fashioned check, right? Like checking that off the list, scratching it out, however you go about it. And it makes you, also you have pride in your job. Everyone has pride in what they do. So you feel like you accomplish and you have a good idea and you know exactly what's going to be in for tomorrow. Now, in our industry, are there 75 other things that are gonna happen? Absolutely. It's not like we can just plan this 1 hour is gonna get this done. Especially in the world of recruiting, you're gonna have phone calls from different drivers or, different, back end processes that you need to get completed that it's constantly evolving, right? It's living, it's breathing. So those action items are great, and I'd love to know for a new recruiter getting in, what advice to our industry what would be kind of one of the biggest advice that you would give to a new recruiter as far as, like, what should they study? Where should they look? How should they get up to speed on our industry?
Well, circle back to when I was talking before about when I came in, what seemed to help me the most was
Mhm,
to take the time to talk with the different departments. Find someone who's got a minute, you don't have to do it every single day, but, or not the same department every day, but just chat a little bit and then
yep.
also listen. There's a lot of conversation that happens, right outside my office is the entire dispatch team, and I can hear a lot of what's going on. I used to, I'd open my door a little bit so I could hear the
Mhm,
conversations, um, hear the trials and tribulations that dispatchers are having to go through, the planners and what they're having to do to understand it. Um,
mhm.
Sitting in for a little bit. I would do it over in the maintenance side. I'd go and sit over there for, a half hour, listen to what they were going with, understanding the problems and the solutions that they make for those. Excuse me. So I can really um, understand when, a driver's on the phone and goes, "Hey, what do y'all do when you have a breakdown?"
Right.
Boom. Well, let me tell you what we do. Um, that would be my best advice, is to really don't close yourself off in an office.
Mhm,
Is to get out, spend a little bit of time every day on getting as versed as you can on the industry. And then
mm,
also look at what resources are out there. I mean, we're a generation of YouTube and all kinds of different social
mhm.
media and they're in the internet. I mean, geez, 20 years ago, can you imagine if we had the
Oh,
that are available today, where it could have taken us?
no.
I really hate to say that some of the younger generation takes it for granted because it's just always been there.
That's what they know.
Yep, it's always been there for them. And
Where you and I are trying to get away from the paper and pad and put
yeah,
notes
yeah.
into the proper system, right?
Yeah,
I
but,
I think
I'll say our generation grew up through the best era. I mean,
mm,
go through the
yeah,
'80s, the '90s,
arguably,
early 2000s.
yeah.
I mean, that was you got to experience so much of everything. I'll swear by it, we grew up through a great era of time and change and whatnot. But yeah, I would just I'd really say that you've got to get in there and just you know do as much homework as you can to learn everything
Mhm,
you can. And just like you said, something's going to change every day. And maybe we don't have answers all the time, but maybe looking into other companies and, you know, excuse me, what their solutions have been. Um, they're like, once again, there's so many blogs and different things out there.
oh, man, yeah.
And then take advantage of the things that are offered. I get emails every single day of, webinars, seminars, and, different things that you can attend
Mhm,
to grow and your knowledge and network. And I really wish I could attend them all, and you can't.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I've
I
got,
sign up for a lot, I could tell you that.
yeah, I've got a very busy, job. But
Yeah.
attending these kind of things really help. I'm heading to Vegas in a couple weeks to go to the 10th Street
Mhm.
user conference, and
Yep, that's coming up.
yeah, and it's not only a great time. Of course, it's in Vegas, but um, gosh, the knowledge that I got from that event last year, I mean, it really just broadened my horizon on so many different areas, from safety, to retention, um, from just the roots of the recruiting aspect of it. And this was, I'd been a little over a year in the industry at that point. when I went
Yeah.
last year. So I'm really excited again. They always have a lot of great seminars and classes, and really take care of their customers really well at this conference. And but anything though, it doesn't have to be something that elaborate. That most cities have local gatherings and conferences that you can go to and network and learn. And sometimes just the networking and getting with other people in the industry and having these conversations that matter, and you learn so much from each other, and each other's experiences will really help someone grow. And that's a whole lot. That's not just I guess a little piece of advice, but I feel like it could really take someone a long way, especially first getting into the industry.
I think so too. Be a sponge, absorb as much as possible. That's one reason we also started this podcast is because a lot of our clients bring in new recruiters. How do they learn best practices, right? I mean, of course, there's a playbook of sorts, but it's talking about solutions that are really that work and kind of ad hoc it, right? And I think one piece you said about the departments, right? Keeping that open ear because going into retention that makes a world of a difference. We often see in our industry drivers change jobs or turn over within the first 90 days. And that's because of the expectations that were set. And typically the handoff is where we see that gap. And so your advice of not just having a formal meeting, but just listening to dispatch and understanding what the conversations they're having with their drivers absolutely has impacted your your recruiting language and how you speak to drivers because you have that real world experience and know exactly what to expect. So kind of looking more at retention, what are some things that you've found that Dylan does a little bit differently to retain drivers in the long term?
Yeah, that is a great question, Jackie. So beyond the transparency of it, um, one thing that really benefits us as being a mid to smaller to mid-sized company is we're not so big that we can't know the drivers by the name.
Right.
And you hear
Yeah,
it's a common thing you hear in the industry is
it
I'm
is.
just another number. And I hate to hear that, but I understand why some companies it turns out that way, because if you have 13,000 trucks on the road, how could an owner of a company know 13,000 different people? It is beyond me.
Yeah.
Um, you can look at your social media profiles and go, I have this many friends, so I really know this many people.
Oh,
And it's
same.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
600.
Yeah.
So and then we think 13,000. But that really makes a difference when
Mm-hmm.
the drivers come in and you go, hey Joe, how are you doing? Um, it means something to them. They're out on the road, they get lonely out there. And when they come back to, their home terminal, it should feel like a home away from home for them. It should be a pleasant experience. So I really believe that, it's something that we've been able to offer our drivers, that helps
Mm-hmm.
them along. Um, Also, tokens of appreciation. Our owner's been fantastic about, let me just do a little something here and there. And it may not even be something huge and elaborate. It's
It
just
doesn't need to be.
small thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the small thank yous go a long way.
Oh,
And
yes.
hey, once a month, let's have a little gift in their mailbox. That's just
Mhm.
something for them to go, hey, thanks. Thanks for doing what you do. We're not a huge company on giving awards for doing your job, and I'm big on that philosophy. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, I've never understood. It's like, oh, you came and you came and did a job, and you
You showed up on time for the job you're paid for.
asked
Yeah.
and got a trophy for doing what you were hired to do.
It's kinda like, yeah, that philosophy of everyone gets a gold me a trophy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Not saying that there's no positives to that, but it's not. I'm not a huge favorite of that,
Mhm.
and we really don't do that. We're not giving out awards because you didn't wreck. Well, no, you shouldn't be wrecking. Um, your award for doing your job, you get to keep your job. And
Mhm.
that's may sound kind of harsh, but we try to do other things. And we do a lot of little things around here. Hey, randomly, our shop guys they're grilling out food for everybody, and then all the drivers that are coming in and out throughout the day, hey, go upstairs and get you a burger,
Sure.
or get something to eat, or take you a plate for the road if you're not hungry right now. And even down to when we do our driver's appreciation, we do ours a little bit differently than what the industry does. We're kind of, I think the industry driver appreciation is September.
Yep,
Of
full week.
the week.
Mhm.
We do ours towards the end of October, and
Oh, interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
and I'm not really sure why that was just the way it was when I started here. I'm sure there was some kind of great reasoning that Mr. Dillon had when he implemented that. Um, but we the way we used to do it is we had a big tent set out, and all week long they were cooking and had all this food made up. But most of the time throughout the week, the drivers are on the road and they didn't get to enjoy that. Uh,
Yeah.
everybody in the office is getting fat and sassy from all the hot dogs and hot dog buns. We were,
That's one of the best memes out there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but we took a step back a couple years ago and thought, well, how can we do this and make it more beneficial for the drivers? It's
Mhm.
Drivers Appreciation Week, so we started implementing. Well, let's instead of taking the money we allocate to buy all this food and rent these tents and do all this stuff that they're not getting to enjoy, or only a small percentage of them are getting to enjoy,
Mhm.
and let's get some gifts and prizes and we'll raffle them out all week. And we were able to do it last year. We made sure everybody got something, which was really nice. Um, to get enough prizes that we can purchase and get donated to us for our drivers, that everyone got something. And
Mhm.
then we do a custom gift for everyone. The little bitty truck that you can see.
Yep.
To That was one we did for. Actually, that was for Christmas. That wasn't for Drivers Appreciation. I think I told you that.
For every driver?
Yeah, every driver got one. So, and along with we had like a gift card for Pilot Flying J truck stops. I mean, we all know when they're on the road, they're going to stop at a truck stop.
Yeah.
Use that gift card to get something that you need, a meal, whatever it is, a new hat. I mean, it's just something. Um, but back to the, driver's appreciation, we do, actually the shirt I'm wearing, we actually did these polos, for driver's appreciation, 2 years ago. Really
They're
nice
slick. Yeah, they're
and
slick.
embroidered logo on it. And we did that along with a custom made t-shirt. And then we do a big in-house safety meeting, and then we cook a huge meal for everyone.
Who doesn't love food?
Not just hamburgers and hot dogs. We're doing ribs and beef tenderloin and you know good stuff. And then we tell the drivers invite your family. It's not just them. We also want to thank the wives, the spouses, and um, the children and everyone else, because that's a tough life to live if
Oh,
you're married
sure is.
or with somebody and they're gone for, 90% of the week, or
Mhm.
80% of the week even, that's hard.
It's like needing buy-in. You don't really necessarily buy-in, but, you do in a way when a driver is having maybe a hard week, a hard couple weeks, the spouse will remember the barbecue or the hat or the gift cards they were able to cash in on for the kids, and I think to your point, little things make a big difference.
Absolutely. And, for the spouses, it's not even as much, what we're doing. I think it's more
Mhm.
of a sense of calming to know that, hey,
Yeah.
look at this company my husband or my wife is working for. And look how they take care of them and they feel
Mhm.
better about it.
Mhm.
And I think that's important as well.
Is a sense of pride in the whole family at
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
point, right? You
Yeah.
get that pridefulness from not only the driver, but from the spouse, and that's where social media has been such a positive impact for the driver industry, for the trucking industry, if you will. I remember when I started talking about Facebook when I started KJ 12 years ago, and I got some cross-eyed looks, and now I'd say most trucking companies are on social. It's free if you can have an intern do it, or, even a couple of posts throughout the week, but, tagging drivers and letting their spouses see that and share it,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
brings that sense of pride, and so I often say some companies will say to us, "Well, we're smaller, we don't have the, trucking margins are thin, we don't have the biggest budget for recognition." I say power of thank you, power of social, power of a really, you know, a great barbecue, right? And acknowledging the drivers. Yes, you can. We have some clients that are giving away, geez, like brand new F-150s. You can do that, but the power of a thank you goes such a long way in an industry where drivers have felt so underappreciated for so long. Those the details and that level of the 2 words of thank you drives home so far.
Absolutely.
And I think that
Well,
really helps with overall recognition with companies individually, but overall the industry, because we are losing drivers to out not just other competitors, but outside industries, right? Because of how hard the work is. It is a hard job. And so recognizing them and thanking them for what they do and a good attaboy, it goes a long way.
yeah, yeah, it does. We had one of our female drivers that's been with us, oh, well over 5 years, and I can't think of the exact number right now, but, we do recognition awards, so, when we hit drivers hit certain milestones, and, this driver in particular, she had hit a milestone, and, she got we got her this custom-made watch and this really
Nice.
beautiful plaque, and, she didn't even know that she had hit this milestone, so when she came in to drop a trailer off, the dispatcher said, "Hey, go see Josh and Russell over there," and in their office, and she came in, she was like, "What's going on?" And when typically in my office shared with safety, when they're heading over here, they're like, "Oh no, what did I do?" Uh,
Right, right, right.
it was the good conversations that we like to have. Um, but we gave her the plaque and her watch, and she almost teared up, and she said, she said,
Oh,
for as long as I've been in the industry and as many miles as I've driven, this little stuff right here is why I've stayed with Dillon Transportation. And that really stuck with me, to be able to witness it,
absolutely.
but when you witness the joy in someone's eyes when they get that pat on the back, it's the I call them the attaboys,
Yeah, yeah.
but they do. They really go a long way.
As we start to wrap up, we have our driver community. We have 250,000 drivers, and that is growing, which is so exciting. Love to hear from you about the positions you have available, and besides for the transparency, the honesty, you know, why drivers should consider Dylan as maybe their next home.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, as far as positions open, we are looking for solo drivers, and we're actually looking for some team drivers as well, for the company. I'm not going to go too far into the pay and all the details. This is
Nope, we'll have a link below for you to check out
There we go.
their
There we go.
website and to learn more.
But when you reach out, you're going to directly reach to me, and as I
Fantastic.
mentioned before earlier, I'm a man of many hats in the recruiting department, so I'm on the phone a lot. Uh, I've watched my phone light up about 4 or 5 times since we've been having this
I'm
conversation,
sure.
uh,
Yeah.
and that's normal. And when I'm on the phone a lot, I can't answer every call. So beyond you know what we talk about, what we're looking for, if you reach out to Dylan and for some reason you don't get an answer, leave me a message. I will call you back. I'll make it my priority to, answer all my messages. But as far as positions open, we are looking at hiring around the Kingman, Arizona, out to Las Vegas area for solo drivers or team positions. Nashville regional area. I'd say a radius of, we could go 120, 150 miles out. But any one of those areas, if you're looking for a place to call home, if you're at that, that spot in your driving career where you're like, well, I've got 4 or 5 years left in me and I'm hanging the keys up, and I need a place that I want to be.
Mhm.
Definitely give me a call. We do offer some, great benefits and a good pay structure, and really a good at home environment for our drivers. And you know, the guys that we've kept around here, they know it.
Mhm.
And we've had some that actually we just had a few that left and recently came back and they said, you know what, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, the grass isn't always greener.
Hey, we're not a perfect company, and things don't always go exactly as we all want it and as planned. But when those kind of times happen, those things happen. Our goal, what we like to do here in the office is figure out a way to find solutions for those problems. to keep everybody happy out on the road. Because just like you said earlier, things change in the industry, and sometimes we have speed bumps and traffic jams that get in our way as well, and they're frustrating for all ends. But we really like to find a solution to keep everyone rolling, and you know, make it the job that they're happy to show up to every week.
And when there's a will, there's a way. I found that to be true.
We have the way.
Yep, yep, and that makes all the difference because no matter what industry you're in, but for our show, it's our audience of drivers, it's partnering with a company that you feel respect, you're prideful of, and that honors you. And hey, you might get a good barbecue out of it too, because some ribs sound fantastic right now to me. Josh, thank you so much for being on our show. I feel like I could talk to you for hours. And for all of our drivers, there'll be a link below in the show notes. Josh, any final words for our audience?
For the audience, thanks so much for listening to us ramble on for a while. I hope that everyone found something interesting or useful in it. And Jackie, thank you so much for having me and bringing Dillon Transportation on as well. And we were tickled to death to be able to join you. If you ever want to do part two, just shoot me an email.
Hey, we might have to do it. We may have to do it. Yes, yes, the fans will let us know. So thank you, Josh, so much, and thank you so much to the Dillon Transportation for loading us, Josh, for an hour, and sharing stories and strategies. Really, a fresh perspective on what it takes to build a people first trucking company. And to all of our listeners, thank you for joining us. If you got value from today's episodes, please share it with your team, your peers, your colleagues, for drivers, other drivers on the road. And remember that the road to success begins with effective recruitment, thoughtful retention, and genuine recognition. Your sharing can make a difference, and together we can empower the industry to thrive. Until next time.